coils? You probably have, right? And you probably have a very, very high IQ. Now, this could be the problem with a lot of the world at the moment. It could be that, for instance, like I can't laugh and judge others. They're saying, let's you judge yet ye be judged or something like that. But when you think about it, right, how long does it usually take for something like Bitcoin to do a 6 million plus 1,000% X, whatever it is, the astronomically high number? It took about 13, 14 years, It's into its third or fourth halving, whichever one it is. I'm sure you can look it up and fact check all of that. But that's not the point. The actual point is, as we all know, it's not timing the market, it's timing the market. Yet, for some reason, we continue to watch the kettle. And while we're watching the kettle, we decide to, play with this, play with that, play with this, play with that. Who knows? And then what happens? Oh, you forget all about the kettle. You go to get your water and it's cold because you left it that long, It's kind of crazy. Like the logic, the attention span is just not there. Now, we have a look at L1s versus L2. Now, if we have a look at, for instance, a L1, we could look at Pulse Chain, would be my first go. We could look at Ethereum. Now, we're all aware that the gateway fees are actually coming down just a little bit. So everyone upset that Ethereum gas is a little bit high. It's actually pulled right back. It's almost usable. It's 5 Gwei. Now I haven't seen it for this low it's currently 3 Gwei. Now that's completely unscripted, I tell you. Now, sorry, 4 Gwei because I refreshed. But relative to what it was, it's kind of low. Now, if you go back and have a look at some stakes, maybe they're a year old, maybe they're a couple of years old. As long as they're above about $50 US, you can probably still end the stake. You can probably take it out, and you all know what I'm talking about here. I'm not going to mention it, and then you could probably, if you wanted to, bridge it across to a better chain, which Pulse Chain, which I will talk about and mention, because it's the L1. Now, after you've done that, you have a net figure of about 0. So the question is whether or not you want to engage in that or not. The question is whether or not how large those particular miners, stakes, whatever you are looking at is, right? So let's forget Ethereum because it's getting a bit clunky. It's the fees are kind of, they kind of suck, right? Now, what is worth looking at, I think, is, as you've even seen on the roadmap for Ethereum, the introduction of L2s and how they're going to solve everything under the sun. Now, they could just sort of eventually, once they've tinkered around with the L2 stuff and apply it to the L1 side, which will make the L2s even cheaper. So again, you could say, well, that will, increase its longevity, increase its usability, decrease fees on both L1 and L2. Now, I'm not sure how that will work technically, but I can envision it. Now, if I can envision it, there's some very smart people out there that are probably working on it right now as we speak. Or you could, like while you're waiting for that and you have all your tokens over there on that chain, Ethereum still works, nothing wrong with it. I'm not sure if the current administration is going after Ethereum because everyone seems to love Bitcoin, especially now that it's being co-opted by the large, the ETFs, and you have institutional money coming in and buying up all your Bitcoin that was supposed to provide you with freedom, but instead you provide someone else, you tell them to look after your stuff, and you pay them fees. Cool story, bro. Now, what else can we look at? We can look at Binance, right? BNB tokens specifically, and the fees for BNB. Now, if we go back and have a look at the Binance Smart Chain, I'm hoping this is correct because I never use this stuff, right? For some reason, I'm getting ads for OFX, which I've never used in my life, so I have no idea why they're connecting Y charts with this OFX, right? It's very funny. It's like trying to lure you in. It's, they'll do crypto. Maybe they'll do some leverage trading. Maybe they'll do some derivatives trading. Maybe they'll do some options. Maybe we can leech some money off them that way. Now, the fee currently, roughly, appears to be about 0.118, which is very low, right? It's very usable. It's relatively quick. You know, if you're not a Pulse Chain fan and someone introduces you to something like Binance and then you use it, right? You might not be able to tell much of a difference between that and Ethereum. You might go, oh, it's cheaper than Ethereum. You have to figure out, you know, what chain you're on, which might be beyond some people's capabilities, because maybe they're only using centralized exchanges because they think that's what cryptocurrency is, because, you know, they've been here for a whole of like 3 months, 90 days. But if not, you know, there's a little bit of tinkering you have to do to understand your address and get to this particular chain, right? But all in all, realistically, it's very similar to any other L1 out there. I would say anyway. The next thing, I just checked, there's 3 people in here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, I don't think this is targeted for yourself, but we need to try and reach out to maybe... I saw a tweet today, something about something, and I was like, who has the largest cryptocurrency community actually? Who is it? It's actually still Reddit. And I'm like, dude, how is this even possible? It's kind of funny, because isn't that where the Wall Street Bet stuff come from? I don't know, right? Maybe we need to explain to the crypto space what Pulse Chain is, but they'll probably maybe tear you on your arsehole because they're like, oh yeah, Pulse Chain, oh, fuck that shit, oh. It's okay, fine. Your logic doesn't understand what I, myself, am seeing now currently that most likely people won't see for maybe 3 or 4 years, which is what one whole cycle in the cryptocurrency world, which is going to feel like an eternity. Not so bad if you have some stakes. Now you know what I'm talking about. Back to Binance and its relatively cheap transactions and the LP pools. If you want to go and engage with that, you have quote unquote cake staking. I haven't looked into the contract and what it is, how it works. But you see here, you can get up to 26.87 APR. On some of the other pools, it's about 1.98. Not sure you can sort this in terms of, you cannot, which sucks, because it's not like a spreadsheet. And everyone loves a spreadsheet, right? Ends in 20 days, ends in 41 days. Okay, so there's some other variables you can put into your calculations to try and get the best return for your money, assuming you don't get absolutely wrecked because the token doesn't go to zero. Now, a lot of this stuff, I have no idea what, like DChat is, AI Tech, XRGB, whatever this stuff is, right? I have no idea. I understand it's how it would most likely work and function. As you can see here, trades, buys, earns. I think I saw somewhere real world assets. Now, this is a new thing. Solana, everyone loves their Solana. Okay. But anyway, so this is through Binance Smart Chain from Binance, .com. Now, again, this is not a shield for this. I'm pointing out that this is what people that have no idea about cryptocurrency are going to be looking at. They're going to come in here and go, oh, this looks familiar. This looks like, never mind whatever cases are pending, etc., etc. This looks interesting as it has tickers, many tickers, and it has buttons you can click. And I think people just like clicking buttons. I think we grew up playing computer games, most of us. Most of us are most likely dudes. I don't know if we've got lots of money, a little bit of money. Maybe we're gambling addicts. We like the pokies, we like pressing buttons, we like hearing the sounds. We like clicking on buttons of shit with numbers, and we like to think we know what we're doing. We like to see trends. If you ever played a game called Cross Lotto, I like to think I can pick the numbers, although it's actually most likely 100% random number generator, right? But I still think I can see some mystical code in this shit. That's why I never win any money on this shit, most likely, unless you're very lucky. But when it comes to cryptocurrency, everyone's the pro, everyone knows their shit, right? And that's why there's so many different tokens out there on so many different chains, because everyone's trying to get your money. That's the end. That's the moral of the story, right? Now, just think about it. If all these little tokens didn't exist, and everyone on this list here just decided to, buy, say BNB token, maybe that's not the best example, because then if you all bought the BNB token, maybe the price of the gas increases too. I'm not sure, but maybe you all decided to buy something on Binance Smart Chain. Maybe it's the BNB token, which is what, $588.90. Now I remember that a time where that was double digits, and that was probably 3 to 4 years ago, right? So what can a new L1 do? What can it do? Now, Pulse Chain is, I'm not going to pitch you all stuff like I'm on Shark Tank. A, because I don't think you have multi-millions of dollars to back anything. And B, I got nothing to pitch because I'm doing this purely out of, at this point in time, humor and almost a hobby. I'm starting to get to the point where people, it's good because people are starting to realize that what they thought was true was not true because they didn't look at it in the right lens. I'm not saying I'm correct about everything. I'm just saying 2 or 3 years later, you can see what took place and how it took place. For instance, now, okay, so I'll do Binance. Yes, we understand Binance. Cheap farms, etc. Lots of assets, very cheap. Let's look at Arbitrum, right? And this particular website, I have no idea what it is. Bitbond, I reached out to them and said, can you please consider Pulse Chain? Thank you, ever so politely. Now, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. I did see recently there was a tweet or post out there, as we all saw. People were pointing out, did you know, because Pulse Chain is now recognized on MetaMask and I think Rabby Wallet, potentially, also Internet Money, but I'm not sure Social Trades or Ease considering them currently. But I mentioned that, you can upload the settings into Trayzone. It's like supported. It adds in, it will appear. Not so sure for things like, what are the Ethereum forks, the POWs and Proof of Fair. I'm not even sure what's going on with them. Now, back to the Arbitrum. Arbitrum, right? Arbitrum is very cheap, extremely cheap, right? But have they got if I'm completely new to crypto and I'm like going, hang on, let's have a look. Let's have a look. I don't know what you're talking about. What's this? Pulse and Hex was so. That's not nice, especially when the dude's not here. No one can defend him. Now. Arbitrum L2, right? So you're trading on whatever you're doing, and you're competent enough to figure out how to access or use Arbitrum. Very low fees. It's like everyone's talking about this Ethereum thing. What's going on? And it's like, meanwhile, there's this here, all these here that have a lot cheaper. Now you could go and say, oh, I don't like this one, I don't like that, whatever. It's cheaper. Most people are going to most likely use it cheaper, especially if you're trying to buy something else and you figure out, oh, it's I'm not sure there's a real comparison that would make sense, but it's like it's not even like this. It's if you can buy something cheaper, you'll buy it cheaper. The question is, do you trust it or not? It's like you buy a secondhand car, you see it for sale, and it's a really good buy based on everything. You go and look at it, you test drive it, you look under the hood, you check for any leaks, you drive it, check for any leaks, you look around, you look at the history, it all checks out. So you think it's a good thing, right? So that could be your thing. That could be a good buy. Now, explaining this to someone else who's very skeptical, they might go, no, there's something wrong, or explaining it to someone who has deep knowledge of engines or something like that, they might understand this model has some flaws later on down the track, it will cause some issues, etc., etc. But for the most, people will look at this and go, okay, look at this. We can change a couple of RPC settings. We can go and trade on this. And what tokens did I have? So I pulled up Arbitrum from Crypto Rank. Okay, looks like a clone of CoinMarketCap. And I'm surprised that there is a fair few tokens listed on Arbitrum. Now, one that I'm thinking that is missing, would be something like Pulse Chain, PulseX, or Hex. Now, for whatever reason, I can understand they might not want to list Pulse Chain because it's almost direct competition. But if enough people trade it, it gets well known enough, maybe, just maybe, like this site, you will see things like Wrapped Pulse, because I'm pretty sure I saw Wrapped Ethereum. Yep, yeah, I think that's Wrapped Ethereum. Yeah, Wrapped Ethereum. And you see Wrapped Bitcoin, etc., etc. So once the mass adoption comes along, you're most likely going to see Pulse Chain, PulseX everywhere. Like you see Uniswap everywhere. So Uniswap on Arbitrum, Uniswap on, I can't even think of the other one. What was I talking about? Binance, yeah. Did they have, let's have a look. Oh, meme. Uniswap. Yeah, they got Uni. Okay, cool. All the same price, all like pegged, I guess you would quote unquote say. But they haven't got the unique position where there's a copy on. Now this is confusing. They haven't got a unique position where, say, for something like Hex, the original Hex, I guess you'd call it, not the original and the best, but the original Hex exists on Ethereum. It also exists on Pulse Chain as PHEX, which is now Hex. But so too does Uni. We got EHEX and PHEX. But for some reason, the price is different. But yet, if you see Uniswap on something like Binance, it's that price, and you see it on Arbitrum, it's also that price. It's almost pegged, you know. Like, I'm guessing there's bots out there that can take advantage of arbitrage opportunities and things like that across chains. So I wonder if that will ever take place with Hex on these different chains. Now, I haven't actually seen Hex listed on Binance, and I haven't seen Hex listed on Arbitrum. Maybe it is there, maybe it's not. Let's have a quick look. It's actually not listed, which is interesting. Okay, for whatever reason it's not lifted. Maybe, just maybe, it's not there because they can't actually do anything with it, you know? But, now, forgetting all that, and laughing at that comment, thank you for tuning in anyway. But if you look at, right, the people that did these sacrifices, the funny thing I find about the sacrifice, like I go on there's a story about the snake, you know, the angry snake, he goes past a saw and the saw cuts him, he gets angry and he goes back and bites the saw. Then the saw, he gets even more pissed off, so he bites deeper into the saw, hurts him even more, cuts his skin. He gets really pissed off at the saw, then he wraps his whole body around it and squeezes with all his might. He ends up killing himself. So moral of the story is maybe you shouldn't get angry. Or if you do get angry, maybe it's best to walk away and ignore it, as opposed to let your emotions get the best of you and then you kill yourself. You know, that's not good. Oh, dude, that's not good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, thank you for like interacting. It's good. It's healthy for the mind. Now, I don't mind, man. I'm salty because I got wrecked in Hex. I think a lot of people might have got wrecked in Hex, but like I said, time in the market, maybe they didn't understand, they didn't find the Hex early on, while everyone was screaming as loud as they could, like, look at this thing, what it is paying out this yield, it functions like this in perpetual forever. Maybe in 1,000 years it stops, it breaks. And then maybe they discovered during the sacrifice phase, I don't know, maybe they didn't, I don't know, maybe they didn't lock it away to get more of it, maybe they were trying to hear for the short-term flip. And everyone dumped, apparently. They dumped on my head too, you know. I'm not salty on Hex at all. I still think Hex will do good things. It will just take time. But even if it doesn't do amazing things, even if it stays at this current price forever, it's not a bad return in terms of yield. Having a look at the yield out there. Mind you, there's some better stuff, probably the farms, although they have their own unique types of risk. Impermanent loss being one of them, and not just that, also, you know, do you really want to be holding, I don't know, say one token over another token if something were to happen in either direction? Now, the sacrifice. Now, the funny thing about sacrifice, which I don't understand, is people copy the sacrifice for whatever reason. Now, I did it with no expectations of the work of others, like purely hand on heart, hand on Bible. I had no expectation. It was drilled into me. Like, I didn't understand why people don't listen to words, don't believe them. Maybe it's because they don't themselves actually tell the truth or are able to be truthful. I don't know, because if someone says something to me and I trust them and I believe that they are telling me the truth, I am able to do the same thing, so I can understand that point of view from not my point of view, but from their point of view. So if I'm able to understand that you are able to tell me the truth, I can trust you, and vice versa. But maybe people out there are not so good at telling the truth. And they say this and they say that, but then behind the scenes they do this and they do that. Maybe it's to do with cryptocurrency. Maybe it's to do with, I don't know, your thoughts and opinions about stuff. I don't know. Maybe they just pretend and use catchphrases and copy things from other people, and they have no ideas of their own. And then they think they can pass it off as a real thing. You know the Rolexes? Have you seen the videos where they look like real Rolexes, but then you take them apart, you see what's on their inner workings, and the minute the experts analyze that data, they see the Rolex internals is not a Rolex. They go, this thing's worth nothing. I'm sorry, it's garbage. It looks nice and shiny, but it's a piece of shit. It's a hunk of metal. It's a pig with makeup, you know? You're saying pig with lipstick or something. Now, I think maybe, just maybe, there's many people in cryptocurrency that like that. And they were able to see this from far away. And they, for some reason, thought Hex was a scam. They thought the founder was a scam. They thought, XYZ. They thought everything because they were scammers. You know, they were doing wrong to other people. They were wrecking other people. And they're like, no one can ever be in this purely for, a malevolent means. It was beyond their comprehension. I think that's why we see the price the way it is, personally, because people aren't able to not so much give back, but they got bored. And while they're waiting for that kettle to boil, they're playing with this, playing with that, playing with this, and they forget the water and have to redo the whole thing again, right? So back to the sacrifice. If, for instance, I honestly thought, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of association, etc. Things that here in Australia we barely have, mind you. They have this whole, I don't know what's going on with this digital ID bill and this e-safety commissioner thing. And now we've got politicians coming out on Twitter saying, I think this should have been handled better in the COVID. I'm like, you could have fucking said that when it was taking place, not 3 years later after people were screaming at the top of their lungs, did you know this is happening? Did you know this is happening? Why are you looking into this? And on top of that, why don't the goddamn news outlets cover this? It's infuriating. Maybe they just don't think it's newsworthy. It's like crypto news outlets. Maybe they don't think it's worthy to cover something like Pulse Chain or Hex or Pulse X. I don't know. Maybe it's not relevant to them. But you'd think, right, a new L1 being launched and a founder that's out there, as outlandish as they once were, and all the attention coming from enforcement agencies, regulatory bodies, you think that would have some sort of coverage around, but it's nothing. It's radio silence. It's like, now I don't know if that's a good thing. I was about to say it's like a stealth bomber is not appearing on the radar, but then that's almost implying that it's a good stealth as opposed to being ignored. It's like, there's something attacking us. I'll just ignore it. It's like, that's not good. What? How is this good? Now, we have seen some people in the, larger influencers talk about other influencers. We've seen them talk about the actual, some things like Pulse Chain, Pulse X. I'm not sure. Maybe Hex, maybe, I don't know. But it just appears as if it's not in the, this current cycle's on the radar because it's not having the huge green candles. Because I don't know, they didn't get their paid shill. Maybe that was one thing that I found fascinating that was brought to my attention from the Hexagon community, that there was lists and lists of people that had, if you pay me this much money, I will say this for this, for this, for this. Now, I always forget that until now, and then I go back and go, hang on, some of the people I see, they're that right. You see them on Twitter and stuff. They got huge followings, don't get me wrong, and they got I would imagine there's people just stalking everything they do. But then it's like, hang on, but some of the shit is paid for. What if some of this online content is paid for? What the hell's going on? Anyway, I digress. Sacrifice. Now, this is what I think. I could be wrong. This is what I think is wrong with any other sacrifice that was not actually for a literal political freedom of thought expression. A gesture, a political, not ideology, It was literally, if you believe in political free speech, you could do this, you know? It's like if you believe in, I don't know, if you, you believe in a religion, you can do these prayers, etc., but not quite the religion aspect, you know? So the funny thing was though, as that took place, all right, what did it do to the price? Now, I'm not sure if it was people piling in on top of other people, if it was whales playing games trying to get the best return, because, you know, if you have a token that's worth X amount and someone pumps the shit out of that token and sacrifices a lot, because it's, I don't know, worth however many X's it did. I don't know if you guys, everyone remembers in Hex seeing these numbers. I'm sitting back going, oh my God, this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this. At the time, euphoric emotions take over. The logic brain should have kicked in and go, yo, like, dude, the fuck? Maybe this is the all-time high. Maybe you take some profits. And you have a look at it, and then people pumping the price, you know, maybe some more attention, I don't know, from all aspects. But then what happened, right? Then what happened? I guess the sacrifice ended, took place, a snapshot or whatever, or the phase was over. And the euphoria sort of died off, and then the waiting kicked in, right? So in the meantime, in this waiting period, what took place? Wasn't there other sacrifices? And I was thinking, hang on, these new tokens or whatever it is, it was not for a sacrifice for like political free speech or freedom of movement or whatever it was politically. It was literally like, get your money and this is going to happen, most likely. I'm like, hang on. That felt different to me. Now, I could be wrong. But what did it do to the price of those? The tokens didn't exist. And maybe people were buying tokens to sacrifice for it. But don't get me wrong. Like, couldn't you have done it in a way that once Pulse Chain was released, then you could have been like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice for XYZ, and you can sacrifice Pulse Chain if you want to. Maybe, just maybe, people would have bought Pulse Chain, pumping the price of Pulse Chain, and then that would have been beneficial to the entire ecosystem. I could be wrong, right? There could be something I'm missing. Like I said, my IQ is not like 1 billion like everyone else on the internet clearly is, but that is what I thought was a interesting tactical maneuver by anyone engaging in sacrifices that weren't, in my opinion, for Pulse Chain or Pulse X. I think the airdrop tactic is probably the best, assuming it's actually worth anything. But like I said, after what I saw took place, watched it all, played it out in my mind again and again, and go, hang on, that was just wrecked. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of people, it's locked up, and I think there is a lot of crypto in different things that had sacrifices for. Now, I'm not sure how they're performing, but over time, the assumption is, I'm guessing, to do the positive before the negative, the assumption is Pulse Chain, going back to my little spiel, is very early. It's not even a year old. It is encroaching a year very, very quickly, because it's what, day 363, sorry. So what, 2 more days, and it is a year old, right? Hex is currently going up a little bit. That's not the point of the stream. Pulse is still under sack. Pulse X is still under sack, and it's still less than a fucking year old, people. And no one understands this, and it's frustrating because we can worry about the sacrifices which took place on whatever these other platforms, and cool, they exist. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. There's different bridges, very cool. There's you can use existing platforms to get in and out via these different bridges. You can go and use Ethereum, but then it's funny because it's like, let's abandon Ethereum. But then if you have if you have something on Ethereum, you want to bridge it over, just use the official bridge, which you have to pay Ethereum to get in. It's like, fuck, that sucks. It's almost to the point I want to boycott. I want to boycott every other thing. It's hard to do that though, because unless there's direct on and off ramps, I'm still having to go through you might still have to go through to the various platforms like Arbitrum, Polygon, Change Nows, the Binances, you know, just to get onto something that you like. And I think once the drawbridges sort of get let down everywhere, and people aren't so anal about shit that's not going to happen, the imaginable horribles, and they realize it's a new L1 that's mad cheap and it has all of their favorite tickets already there. Someone maybe, just maybe, has to pair them in a similar nature to the way they paired with. If you have a look on here. Now, I'm not so sure if Binance does have Uniswap on BSC chain. I could be just, if that's incorrect, someone call me out. But if that is correct, you know, I know it's definitely got DAI. And, you know, Pulse Chain also has the Ethereum DAI on there. It doesn't have the different variants of DAI. I don't think how that would work. I guess you could swap in, but that's a side issue. Now, but think about it. What if eventually people just realize Pulse Chain, oh, it exists, it's a new cheap L1, and they go to buy some stuff and they realize they can actually do their trades over on Pulse Chain. They can swap their stables and they can swap a few other tokens that exist, because eventually some of them, maybe, just maybe, you know, not the ones that are already there that are performing better than on the other chains, but maybe, just maybe, eventually it'll get to the point where you can just swap your, maybe there's a large pool for like eUni, for example, over on the Pulse Chain, on Pulse X. And instead of changing over on Ethereum, maybe they use Pulse X. Now that's a long bet though, because think about it. If people are going to be doing that, the assumption is they already understand how to do this on Arbitrum and or BNB, so they might as well just do it there. Like, where is the benefit to do this over on Pulse Chain? This is what I'm trying to understand. Now, me, I have a biased view because I do enjoy the Pulse Chain, Pulse X, and Hex, and INC ecosphere, right? I do enjoy seeing it from the beginning, from like people from the very beginning, right? You are literally part of a movement who saw this being built from the ground up. Whether, like, not being built literally, but we saw it. Well, there was nothing. There was once nothing. Then we got shit for free, and then you have this other stuff. The same with Hex. There was once nothing, then you went into the AA, and then you minted, you interacted with code, and next thing you've got how many Hex, and then depending on that, did you get T-shares? You know, how are you going? How's it all going for you? It's pretty fascinating, right? That's why I still stick around. Because I can't wait to see how this stuff plays out. Because like I said, you have a new L1 that's being completely ignored. It's slowly the drawbridges are being lowered, right? It's slowly people are like deciding to come out of little castles, little fortresses, and going, maybe we should explore this land, and maybe, oh, there's some berries over there. Oh, there's some wood. Oh, there's some stone, like Age of Empire style. And then maybe they're gonna start gathering and the understanding that maybe it could be something that, let's have a look at. Let's do some prices, right? Let's do, not prices on Pulse Chain, but let's do some prices on what BNB is. It's $587 US, and Arbitrum. This is the funny one, Arbitrum. I'm sitting there thinking, what am I going to talk about, right? So I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, what's the price of this? Oh, okay, so they got some other stuff on Arbitrum, cool. They got some other stuff on Binance, cool. On the smart chain, cool. But Arbitrum is $1.03. Can you imagine what the fuck people would do if Pulse Chain ever hit $1.03, let alone if it hit 50 cents, if it hit 10 cents, if it 1 cent? 1 cent would be insane. Now, and not only would it be insane, but based on the performance of Ethereum, it could hit the 1 cent and the fees wouldn't be absolutely wrecked when you think about it logically. Maybe that's just maybe that's why the decimals were moved, and just maybe once it does, maybe if it does a 10,000x, you know, it hits that one cent or something like that, and it's still usable, maybe it won't murder the price of everything, and maybe just maybe it'll achieve the dream where I think Vitalik himself, Vitalik clapping comes to mind. That song is hilarious. That clap he does is like it's very feminine. It's almost like an Asian girl thing. It's quite funny. Now, if it does that and still has cheap fees, maybe at that point Ethereum's at what, 100,000 Ethereum. Can you imagine the gas fees on that? And then you can imagine Arbitrum's like $10 and shit. What are their gas fees gonna be like if that happens? Because I don't know, like up and to the right is not just purely for the price of cryptocurrency over time. Up and to the right is the opposite of the purchasing power of the fucking US dollar. Now, everything relative to that is getting wrecked. So things you hold that maintain or increase and up and to the right, it's probably a better thing to be in than the US dollar. Although, don't get me wrong, the US dollar is stronger than the Zimbabwe dollar. I'm not even sure that's still around. And a few others that, hyperinflation just absolutely destroyed. But I think, just maybe. Now, I don't want to say you should do this and you should do that, etc., etc. But logically, if you think about it, how crypto has progressed over time, half the time, even the most shittest of shitcoins, how have they performed, right? How do you think a L1 that is cheaper or as cheap as some L2s is going to perform beyond 2, 3, 4, 5 years? How did Ethereum perform in its first, second, third, fourth, fifth year? And everyone's dying to get, but to be fair, everyone's dying to get their multi-millions, right? But so they create other stuff, which is fine, which is cool. But I think there is a strong realization that eventually, most likely, no matter what you do, if Pulse Chain pumps in the sliders, Pulse X pumps in the sliders, most people are going to have huge bags of this, and it's probably going to be beneficial to them, and they're not going to care. And on top of that, if it does do that, most likely a rising tide lifts all ships, right? Right? So most likely, shit is all going to pump across the board in maybe one ecosphere versus another. Now, we've all heard the theory that the Bitcoin's first, then the Ethereums, and the alts, and then what is categorized? What would Hex, INC, Pulse, X, and Pulse be categorized as? Technically, I guess you could be alts. However, we have seen before it pump while everything else dies, which is kind of funny because I find it extremely hilarious when that happens and no one says shit about it. No one. I'm like, hang on, I've seen this before, and then 3 years later, everyone gets proven wrong, all simultaneously, like a moment in time where everyone realized, fuck, they stuffed up. You know what I mean? It's at this point they realized they stuffed up. I think that's all I got to say for today, people. Yeah. So in absolute closing, definitive closing, I'm going to say in maybe 2 sentences, if you do not understand what a new L1 is or has the capabilities of doing, regardless of who launched it, regardless of what you think about its, name, its logo, its where it's, who's involved in it in terms of the characters that appear, who talk about it, myself included, or others, regardless of any of that, when you compare L1s and their performance over, say, a 5-year period, usually the chart looks, when you zoom right out and set it to all, usually if you get a ruler and put it from the beginning, right, usually, and you find the ending point at the 5-year time, it is going to have an angle of what, like maybe 45 degrees, sometimes it's even more harsh. Generally, it's from the left and then to the top right-hand corner, right? That is usually what takes place. And if you do not believe me, go back and check every single chart in history in cryptocurrency with an L1 and prove me wrong that from its inception, it is lower than the price in which it was incepted. And especially if it starts at 0, how can you get lower than 0? Explain to me, cryptocurrency world, explain to me how you can get lower than 0. I'm waiting to hear this. Now, I will close out. I will check chat briefly because I've rambled on and ignored you all. And sometimes there's cool people that appear. Sometimes there's no one. It's me talking to myself. That's all good. I haven't ignored anyone. Good. All right. So, free speech signing out. And do not forget, more importantly, remember, L1s do pretty good over 5 years, especially from inception. But most people don't understand this until 2, 3 years in, 4 years in, because some of the world's logic is wrecked. And I'm seeing this in real time play out. And it's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. All right. Goodbye.